Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3. Today's episode is all about upgrades. What to upgrade, what not to upgrade, and where to get the best value for your money. Hi, I'm Ramsin Khachi. I'm the founder and principal of Khachi Design Build and Stone Lab Surfaces. I've been in the design and construction industry for over 25 years. I've decided to do an entire series around my own personal real estate investment. I'll be taking a builder's custom-like home and then taking it to an entirely new level.
Welcome to Bespoke in the Burbs.
When you're looking at buying a pre-construction home, there is a lot to consider. So let's say you're out and about looking to buy something and you come across a few subdivisions from different builders and all things seem pretty much equal except there's a differential in price. Well, the big question is why? What do you get for your money? Well, you got to dig in deep to find out. You have to ask some questions. Some builders actually start you right at the bottom when it comes to the finishes and what you get, and some start you somewhere in the middle here. And that's usually the reason why there is a price difference. You only get what you pay for. I love starting somewhere in the middle. So builders like Fernbrook start you somewhere in the middle, and when you go to pick your finishes, even if you were to go all standard, you'd end up with a somewhat reasonable house. Other builders, when you go in, everything starts at the bottom, and by the time you start to make it look somewhat reasonable, you're already at that price above, and maybe even higher. So you really got to be careful. Start asking some questions. What's included? What do I get? What are the hidden fees? Maybe visit the decor center to see what your standard finishes are. Seeing a model home is always fantastic, but know that those model homes are done to the nines and everything in there costs a lot of money. Some builders actually decorate a model home, but also beside that model home, they'll do another home that's based on standards. Now, we've done that for Fernbrook. We've done a model home, and then next door, we've done another model home based completely on standards, and that gives purchasers a lot of transparency. You know exactly what you're going to get, and then if you really want to upgrade up to the beauty in that all done up model home, you know what it's going to cost you because they'll just add that up and say this model home versus that is a few $100,000 in extras. Yes, a few $100,000, sometimes even more. So you got to be careful. What do you spend your money on? Well, let's go through a list of what things are worth upgrading. Now let's start from the outside. So first thing you've got to do is select your lot and select some finishes on the outside. Usually you get a choice of maybe 1 or 2 elevations, and I like elevation A or elevation B, and you make those choices. You might get to select some of your exterior finishes. Most importantly, you want to select your lot properly. This is something that I didn't do on the first house I bought. I didn't even think about it. And when I moved in, I realized a lot of the mistakes I made. Number 1, which way does the house face? Do you get afternoon sun in your backyard or not? Do you have enough parking in your driveway for the cars you own, let alone parking for people that maybe come and visit you? I didn't think about any of this stuff, and when I moved in, I realized, number 1, I didn't have enough parking. Number 2, there was nowhere to park for visitors that came over. And number 3, well, I lucked out and I had afternoon sun, but that could have easily not happened because I didn't think about those things. So you got to really consider those elements when it comes to selecting the lot. I also don't really think it's a great idea to upgrade to the biggest lot in the neighborhood. Those lot premiums can get pretty hefty. Now, if you're going to go for a ravine lot because you want your privacy, I think that's money well invested if you can afford it. But when it comes to just simply a larger lot, be careful how much you spend. You really don't want to be that one person that spent the most on that house. In the end, I don't think you'll get all that investment back. So select your lot based on your needs. Make sure you consider the direction it faces, and then make sure you consider elements such as parking, driveway length, size of garage, and things like that. That moves us into the interior. What items are worth upgrading on the inside? So I've got a list. Let's go through the list. Now, first and foremost, on the inside, I'd say tiles are the one item that you should consider spending a few dollars on. Tiles are an item that they're very difficult to rip out and redo after the fact. It gets costly, it gets messy, they go underneath cabinets. It involves a lot of work, and that work costs a lot of money. So it's really not worth it. You really got to look at what it costs to upgrade, and often it's not much less than you ripping things out later and doing it yourself, but saves you all that headache. So tiles are an element that are worth upgrading, but when it comes to upgrading tiles, there's a few things to consider. Number one, try to go with large format tiles. Keep it looking a little more up to date and modern. Forget those little 12 by 12 tiles or 4 by 6 tiles on the walls. Believe it or not, yes, some builders still offer those 4 by 6 wall tiles from 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, 30, 40 years ago. I still see them in decor centers, and it drives me nuts. But the whole idea is, yes, they're ugly, but now you have to upgrade, and I don't love that. So if you're going to go on to a nicer tile, large format tiles are great. Try and keep the number of finishes on the main floor to a minimum. So if you're going to pick a tile in the foyer, try and carry that look into the mudroom, maybe even into the powder room. But if you're going to go into the powder room, maybe do a border and then keep that field tile in the middle the same as the foyer, just to keep that continuity through the house. Don't make a mishmash of all the finishes. So once you pick your tiles, then the next question comes up. Well, you've picked these beautiful dark tiles, but our standard grout is white, and it's going to look ugly. So they know that, you know that, and now you're stuck with trying to decide, well, what do I do? Well, you have no choice. You have to upgrade the grout. To get different colors in grouts is going to cost you a bit of a premium, but I think that's another premium that's worth paying for. Nothing worse than having dark tiles with white grout or having white tiles with like a cream colored grout. It just doesn't work. So you want to try and match your grout color to the tile unless you want that contrasting look, and that's something you have to decide when you're picking your finishes. The other item that I think sometimes is worth spending money on is your railings. Now, staircases and railings, they're often stained. So you get a staircase that's stained, you get a handrail that's stained, and that kind of relates to your flooring. And I want to come back to that one because there's something you got to be careful with on that. But when it comes to railings, you don't want to start changing your railings after the fact. If the standard is like a wooden spindle and it's stained, you're not going to strip those down later and restain them a different color, nor are you going to restain your staircase or your handrail, and you're not going to pull those spindles out and put a metal railing in because the holes are already drilled, they won't line up, they're too big. It creates a whole mess of problems that you don't want to deal with. So if you're going to upgrade to a wrought iron railing or something a little bit different like a glass railing, then do so. I know it's going to cost a few dollars, and this is the thing, you need to put some money aside in your budget when you're buying a house because some of these upgrades are going to be necessary. So railings are an area where you're going to want to upgrade. Pot lights are an area where you may consider upgrading, especially on the top floor of the house. I would really think twice about upgrading to extra pot lights on the main level of the house. They're easy to wire from the basement, especially if your basement is not finished, and that's another thing I'll come back to. You can run wires and add pot lights on the main floor. Second floor, when you've got an attic above, very difficult. You don't want to start crawling through the attic, disrupting the insulation, dealing with a vapor barrier, putting those lights in the attic, so forget that. If you can take all your pot lights, put them on the top floor, maybe add a couple of pot lights in the soffits outside for exterior lighting. Those are areas that you're not going to be able to do afterwards, and it's worth spending a few dollars to get them off your head now. So you've dealt with pot lights and you've dealt with your staircase, and then the last thing that I think is worth upgrading is doors and trim. These days, more and more homes have higher ceilings. So you've got 9-foot floor ceilings on the main floor, maybe even 10-foot ceilings on the main floor, and then 9-foot on the second floor or 8-foot on the second floor. Nothing worse than having 80-inch high doors on a 9 or 10-foot ceiling. It looks horrible. I forbid you to do it. So don't do that. So you may want to upgrade your doors and your trim. Those are very difficult after the fact to fix as well. I know everyone thinks it's easy to pull off baseboards and casings and install new ones. It's not that easy. It's especially the way doors are put in today. They're slapped up, they're pre-hung, they put them up, they're stapled and glued already, so pulling that casing off the jamb is difficult. If you're going to simply change your door, it's going to be difficult hanging a new door in an existing opening. Not to mention changing the height of that opening is going to involve taking the header out, raising it. It's just a whole mess of work that you don't want to get into. Taller doors, nicer casings, and taller baseboards throughout are just simply beautiful, and they will pay for themselves in the long run when it comes to the value of the house. Now we move on to an area that I kind of call the maybe area. This is an area where you may consider paying for the upgrade, you may not, depending on your situation. One of those items is the plumbing fixtures. Plumbing fixtures often are fairly easy to change when it comes to the powder room, the vanity faucets, kitchen faucet, those are easy faucets. You just undo them, the hole is there, they're pretty much universal, and then you can throw a new faucet. In a kitchen, no big deal. Powder room, no big deal. Even if you have to change the trip lever on the toilet to kind of match the color of the faucet later, again, not a big problem. The difficulty comes in when you're dealing with shower stalls and tub faucets. So mostly joint bathrooms or the main bathroom on the second floor might have a shower stall only, and that shower valve may be difficult to change. Now, some builders use kind of a universal valve system. So if they use a product like Hansgrohe that has the iBox Universal in the wall, that valve in the wall will accept many different trim styles from Hansgrohe. Fantastic. So now you've picked the basic, but now you want to upgrade to something a little bit more, appealing. Maybe you want to go to a brushed nickel finish, change your lav faucet. Now all you have to do is change the trim in the shower. The only place it becomes difficult is the master ensuite, which usually has a tub, especially if it has a freestanding tub. That becomes a little more difficult to change the faucet on, so you have to think about those things, and you may consider upgrading just that room. And then the last thing on the maybe list is flooring. So flooring is one of those things that kind of relates back to that staircase that I said. And I'm going to tell you a story here, and you'll understand why I said that. I went with a client to select finishes, and the first thing we had to pick is the color of the staircase, which I found a little bit odd, because normally when we do work with Fernbrook, for instance, you pick your floor, they match the staircase to the floor, done deal. Nope, not this one. They made us pick the staircase first, so I picked a beautiful color for the staircase. Then we went on to flooring. And the only choices available were laminate floors, and not a single one of those laminate floors matched the colors of the staircase. And there you go. Stuck in the corner, forced to upgrade to the next level of flooring that will offer you options to match the staircase, which I think is just simply wrong. I honestly think it's wrong for builders to put people in positions like that. So I was beyond frustrated. So I personally think that flooring is something that, look at the cost, do the math, pull out a calculator, because that's an element that you can easily pull out, especially if it's laminate flooring. Laminate flooring that's just a floating floor that's clicked together, unclick them, pull them out. Usually all you have to do is take the shoe mold off or the quarter round off in the room, stack them all up nicely, and then maybe sell it. Sell that old flooring, or keep it and use it in the basement. Give it to a friend, doesn't matter. There's still value there. And then go out and select a beautiful floor that matches your staircase that you pick the color on that you love. And then you've got a lot of choices out there. When you go shopping for floors, then you can really understand what your needs are, what the products are. And often that upgraded cost will equal what it'll cost you to put new floors in anyways, but now you have a better floor. So flooring is a tough one, and you kind of have to look at every house and every situation you're in to make that decision. Now we move on to the part of the list where I think is just not worth investing in upgrades. And first and foremost is carpets. Do not upgrade your carpets. The carpets that you get from a builder will be kind of mediocre at best. There are so many beautiful broadlooms out there, and avoid upgrading with the builder on the carpets, because number one, you're going to move in and it's going to be a mud bath outside. So if you don't get in the habit of taking shoes off, or somebody happens to walk in and not take their shoes off and you trek dirt, you're just going to destroy your broadloom everywhere. It's not expensive broadloom anyways, so in my mind it's better to just pull that stuff out after you move in. So maybe live with it for about a year till the subdivision's done. Pull it out then. And then, if it's still in good shape, reuse it in the basement. If not, maybe cut it up for area rugs or a front doormat or whatever. It doesn't matter. Or you can simply sell it and then get into putting beautiful new broadloom. And at the same time, you'll probably do your stair runner anyways, and everything will match and it'll look fantastic. So carpet is one of those things that I don't think is worth spending money on, especially when it comes to upgrades right off the bat. Cabinets are another area where I don't think is worth spending money on, because once you start adding components to cabinets, it really adds the dollars quickly. So what you'll get usually is your standard cabinets with maybe one bank of drawers, and that's it. If you want another bank of drawers, or if you want pot and pan drawers, it's more money. If you want the cabinets to go to the ceiling, it's more money. If you want valance lighting, it's more money. If you want crown molding, it's more money. So all this adds up, and at the end, it's still builder's grade kitchen. It's really not a custom kitchen with a ton of attention to detail. So same thing with that flooring. You can go basic with the cabinetry. After you move in, you can consider pulling that stuff out, maybe reusing it in the basement, put in a second kitchen in the basement, maybe put it into the garage for garage cabinetry, or simply sell it to somebody who needs an inexpensive kitchen for a cottage. They'll pay you money for it, and off it goes. And usually for that price that you would have paid with all the upgrades, you can probably get a custom kitchen done with all the details that you want in that house. So it's not difficult, and that's something that you can't get carried away on because it adds up. Appliances are another area where I don't recommend that you invest in upgrades. Most appliances are standard. A 30-inch range is a 30-inch range, and every one will fit in there. Move in, understand your needs, especially if you're going to get into a custom kitchen later, then make all your decisions and sell all those old appliances. Crown molding is not worth doing. When it comes to crown molding, you're going to move in, you're going to do some work throughout the house. To have those areas already finished and that crown molding in place, if you have to perhaps put pot lights on your main floor and you have to get the wires through the basement and up and into the ceiling, you got to get around that corner. That crown molding will hinder that process. Not to have it there makes it a lot easier. You can cut holes in the corners, get the wires through, and then after the fact, you can put the crown molding that you want, finish it nicely, and get it done properly. That's one of those finishing elements that if the detail is not there, it will not look good. And when it's done in track housing, it's done at a low cost, it's done quickly, so the attention to detail is not there with most builders. Some builders do a fantastic job. So you have to look at the finish, but even still, to do it up front really closes off opportunities for you to do work throughout the house later. So crown molding is an area where I wouldn't consider doing that right now. Now, plaster crown is my favorite. Composite crowns are great as well. I would stay away from wood crown molding because it does shrink and crack, especially with fluctuations in humidity and temperature changes and with the house settling. Unless you want a stained crown, in that case, and you'd go with a wood crown. This brings me to my next item that I wanted to come back to, which is the basement. Don't finish your basement through the builder. If it's already included, great. If it's not, again, just similar to the crown, it closes off opportunity for doing things down the road. So when you want to maybe add a carburetor and you want to run a circuit to the kitchen, or you want to add pot lights, having that basement open, being able to run those wires easily is just priceless. So not only that, but when you move in, you start to realize what your needs are in a house. Once you start living in there, you start to quickly realize that maybe I need another bedroom, maybe I need a home office, maybe I'd like a home gym. So then all your needs start to come into view and into focus, and then you start to design that space to really be able to benefit from it as best as you possibly can. And then look at finishing that basement down the road when everything else in the rest of the house is done. A few other last little things. Door hardware, not worth doing. An easy switch, especially with just one screwdriver, take them off, put new door hardware on. Again, they price the upgrades to make it worth your time or not. You'll find that the upgrade for door hardware will actually equal the price of you buying the hardware and putting it on yourself. But the difference here is if you do it after, you get a choice of hundreds and hundreds of different types of door hardware, where at the builder's decor center, they might give you a choice of 3 or 4. So it's nicer to have that broad choice. Paint is somewhere I would not upgrade. The painting portion of a track home is very inexpensive. It's done very quickly. It's done in such a way to actually keep the cost down, maximize, actually enable the painter to make some money. So the money's not there. Bottom line, money's not there for the nice paint job. And also because the house will settle, people are going to patch nail pops and things like that, and there's just no sense in spending a lot of money in painting. So they just paint it very inexpensively. They give you a choice of 1 or 2 colors. It is not worth upgrading at all. As you move in, as you scuff walls, as you start to decorate rooms, design your rooms, then start to finish those spaces. The only thing that you may consider upgrading is the trim color, because you don't want to repaint all your trim. Ceilings and walls are easy to paint. Trim is a bit more costly. If they give you a nice color to pick from, fantastic for the trim. The rest of the walls, don't worry about it. As you move in, select a beautiful and good quality paint, and then paint those rooms yourself as you go along, and you'll end up with a house that's nicely done and nicely finished. And then lastly, we get into countertops and backsplash. When it comes to stone countertops, some builders now are offering stone in the kitchen, but if you're going to pull that kitchen out, it just makes no sense to have that stone in that kitchen, and often the choices are not great. So my suggestion is maybe have a conversation with the builder and ask that the countertops in the kitchen be put into the vanities. So instead of doing the kitchen, can you guys do stone countertops in the 3 vanities? The amount of countertops are the same, so the cost is similar. So can we do that trade? Put a cheap countertop in the kitchen for me. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. You pull all that out and then you select your countertop later. You can go with a name brand product. You have your choice of color. You have your choice of sink, faucet. All those things can be done in conjunction with your custom kitchen. So those are areas where you want to consider not doing the upgrades and deal with them afterwards. Now, having said all that, I'm going to say one thing. Negotiate up front if you can. Please have that conversation with the builder before you sign on the dotted line. That is where you have the most power. So if you can at the beginning ask for these things in the deal, it saves a lot of headache. Even with regards to upgrades, maybe ask for a second or third upgrade in tiles included. If you think that you just need a few modifications in the kitchen cabinets and you'd be happy, then ask for maybe a little bit of an upgrade in the kitchen cabinets, sign the deal. Then when you get to picking all your finishes, it's a lot easier. Having said that, I have to select all the main materials in the house. That way I can start designing each individual space. So you're not going to want to miss this, but first, what I want to do is stop by the site. I think Mario is just trekking along and I want to make sure I stay ahead of the build with answering questions. So we'll visit him there. Then we're going to go to Marciano's Door and Trim. I've got to pick the doors, the casings, the baseboards, all the door hardware. Then we're going to run up to Milton Hardwood and select the hardwood materials and all the details for the floors. I just dropped in on site. There's so much happening. They're already forming the walls here. The foundations are poured. Let me walk you through. I'll show you how the whole house lays out. It's kind of cool seeing it in this stage. It actually looks smaller than what it's going to turn out to be, but let's go look. So let's walk down here. So this is where you're going to come into the garage. So above here, this is all going to be backfilled. This was my forever house. This would be all an entire room underneath. But in here, it's going to be covered. It's going to be the slab. That's the garage. Let's walk through. I'm going to show you the rest. That's the basement area. So right there is the laundry room as we come forward. Right here is the laundry room. Back there is the utility room. That's kind of like an ironing room. And then back in that far corner is the home theater. This is going to be a bathroom, and behind that is going to be another room that people can use as a bedroom. And let me show you one change that we're making. So with that being the garage, in the back corner we've got this open loggia that I'm kind of enclosing a little bit. We've got this space underneath that normally would be backfilled and then the slab put on grade. So in talking with the guys, we're talking about leaving this excavated. There's going to be a door here. This can be used as a storage closet. We'll have a slab there as a cover and added space, which is fantastic. So this entire thing is going to be one room, and at that end, you look down there, is going to be the home theater. So standing here, it looks a little bit smaller than what I thought, but it always does. So once the framing goes up and you step inside the spaces, it really comes together nicely. Okay, so they've cleared out the showroom for us. That's really nice of them here at Marciano's. That way we can walk around without masks. Nobody's in here. Once we're gone, they're going to sterilize everything, clean everything, and then go back to appointments only. So we're going to walk through and look at all the trim work. And let's start with the trim packages. Now, as it stands, Fernbrook offers a really good selection of trim packages for these houses. What's really important to note is all the trim packages that are available are poplar. They're not MDF. So what happens with a lot of builders, they put in MDF trim, and then if you want anything better like poplar or hardwoods, you're paying a huge premium, and it gets expensive. And it's one of those places where you go, well, I can't really do it myself after because I got to rip down everything they put up and put everything again. It's just not worth it. So there's a huge premium usually to upgrade to poplar. In this case, we're starting with poplar, so it's fantastic. So these are some of the packages that are available. At the Design Center, there's about 5, I think, to pick from. One of them is more of a Tudor style. One is very kind of simple. I don't love this. This is a very Tudor style. I don't think that suits the house. You guys, I hope, agree. Right? So these two are, I know the contemporary one and the Tudor are definitely ones that are available. The Colonial is another one that's available. That's not a bad selection, but the Venetian is another one that's available. So having looked at all of these, my favorites are the Royal and the Venetian. The bead is a beautiful detail, and there's nothing wrong with it. The bead, this is what happens. So you need to get into a whole bunch of modifications, and especially a deep strike plate. So the strike plate comes all the way around here and protects this bead. This is a showroom door, which means it doesn't get opened and closed a lot. But imagine if it got opened and closed a lot, you'd have a lot of damage there and a lot of wear. So eventually it'll look really bad. And to have this versus this, I don't see enough of a difference to go to the bead on the inside. My decision is to go with the Venetian, which I think is elegant enough, it's simple enough, and we're gonna do painted, right? So that's the trim, that's the baseboard. The shoe mold at the bottom is about that big, and that would sit down here. And this profile would be an OG, not a flat one, and that would be that whole complete set. Not this bell fountain, but the Venetian, because I'm only 5'6" and I can't reach all the way up there. So you'll have to just imagine it with that. Anyway, so that shoe mold is a lot nicer than a quarter round. Some people put the quarter round, and it's very chunky, and the fact that it comes out a lot, you get a lot of dust and dirt buildup on that top ledge, and I don't like that. So this is a quarter round here. And I don't love that. So when you have something lower profile like this closer to the wall, it also doesn't stick out. So let me just show you here. When you have a back band, this is a nice finish up here. So you get this tucked in nicely. You don't have it sitting proud of the back band. So when you put a big chunky quarter round on, and if you don't have a back band like this, and the back band is a piece that projects out a little bit, makes the end of the casing a little thicker, then what happens is you get this projection, and that is an absolute no-no. That is very ugly, and I don't like that. So how the trim starts, how it ends in places is very important. You got to think about that. So we will do that. We'll talk about that more, and then let's talk doors, right? So my idea on doors, and I think you guys, whether you agree or not, I'm not sure, but my idea on doors was to go with painted casings and jambs, and then put stained doors in, like put beautiful quarter sawn oak doors and then stain them. Yes, it would, but just to make matters worse, the price of a solid wood door is going to push upwards of $1,000 a door. So it's just not worth it. And that kind of investment, as beautiful as that would be, on this type of house, it is not worth the investment. So the alternative is go back to a painted door and paint it a solid color that's darker, that's more dramatic, and create that differentiation and that contrast with paint rather than stain. So let's look at door styles. They're offering 8-foot doors, standard, which is awesome, and then I think 90-inch on the second floor, so 6 inches shorter on the second floor because the ceiling is lower. I wanted a 2-panel door like this. You see how there's a joint here, and that's a visible joint? I don't want that. So I want this smooth, so that when it's painted, it's all smooth. But then this has a bevel on the inside, and I don't like that. This panel, the double panel door here, has a simple profile on the inside, and I don't mind this. I don't mind this one at all. I'm leaning towards this.
What do you think of this one down here? Just a large, single...
2-panel or 1-panel?
1-panel door.
I didn't see that one. That was nice. That's nice.
Yeah, simple.
Actually, I like that too. You know, beautiful. That's, you know what? This is a bit more contemporary. Now you got me thinking this. Good choice. Actually, scratch everything I said over there. I don't know if this is not offered as a standard. So this would be an upgrade. So we have to look at what the upgrade is. Again, goes back to, is it worth doing this stuff after the fact, like changing it? It's not. You're not going to go rip all your doors down, buy all new doors and put them in. So whatever the upgrade is, to have that uniqueness in look is probably going to be worth it. So we'll see what that upgrade is, but I'm going to lean towards this. So we'll go brushed nickel. It's softer looking, it's nicer. And then the hinges will match, and then they'll have 3 hinges per door. That's it. That's our trim package. So next is flooring. So we're going to go look at some flooring, right? Let's go. So here we are up at Milton Hardwood. You can see the sign right there. I mean, you look at this building, it says Hardwood, and it's cool. I can't wait to go inside. They do all the installations for Fernbrook. We're gonna go in and see what the possibilities are. I think you're gonna learn a lot here, so let's go and have a look. Okay, I'm gonna take my mask off because I've made an appointment with Ed. He's closed the showroom down for us. And there he is. Ed, how you doing?
No, Mr. Ramsin, good to see you.
So
We
if you don't
can't touch
mind,
each other, but
you
good
stay
to
on
see
that
you.
side, I'll stay on this side.
Perfect, perfect. If it's okay, I'll take my mask off.
Yeah, this is exciting. Thanks for letting me come here.
Not a problem.
And-
Anytime.
I guess anybody really, when from Fernbrook, anybody can come and take a look here and pick what they want, if they really want to. So you've got all your stuff at the showroom, at the
Correct,
center.
correct. We make sure that we facilitate them with absolutely everything under the sun, so they have the broadest of selection available with them as well.
So if somebody wants something really custom, you get involved?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so the flooring is vintage. And I want to talk about that because what I want to do is kind of, here's the thing, people don't understand hardwood. Okay, so you have the traditional way of doing hardwood and then sanding it and finishing it, and it's very time consuming, it's very finicky because you can damage it. If you damage it, you got to refinish it all. So pre-finish comes in. Then pre-finish was hardwood all the way through. Now you get this beautiful engineered flooring, which has so many benefits. But there's cheap stuff and there's good stuff, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So vintage, I know from my experience, is one of the best products out there, or fantastic product. And from an engineered perspective, and I want people to see this, an engineered floor is basically layers of composite, not composite, but engineered wood, so plywood essentially.
Exactly, Ramsin. What we have is a 3-ply system over here, where
Right.
we have a balance layer with a core that goes perpendicular, and then the wear layer, which we call a lamella, up on top, which
Right.
is going to be the final, what the customer ends up seeing, in essence. The beauty to this structure is that during the lamination, you must make sure that it's perfectly balanced, and the glue has to be perfect inside both. So it has to be perfect here to catch the balance layer, as well as that on top to catch the actual lamella wear layer up on top.
And then you've got your finish,
That is
and that can be a straight flat finish like satin, or it can have all kinds of different layers, like finishes on it, applications on it.
absolutely,
Right.
and we could do that as well. So depending the finish that you want, traditionally it used to be high gloss, then it went down to semi-gloss. Now everybody's looking for a matte satin finish. Low sheen, because everybody's looking for something that's a lot more user-friendly in essence.
Right.
Because they have the kids, the dogs, the life in general, and this is how we got into the hand scrape and the different type
Which
of
is the
textures.
finish I love, because I got to tell you, I've lived with the hand scrape before, and what's lovely about the hand scrape is when you come in and see, you can see the undulations. You've got some of the natural characteristics of the wood coming through, and if you happen to scrape it, if you happen to scratch it, all you need is a touch-up marker, and you touch it up and you wouldn't even see it. And from a usability and a longevity perspective, it works really, really well. So I noticed this thing's about 10 inches wide,
That is
right?
correct.
So is that a vintage floor right there?
That is a vintage floor, yeah. And the beauty
10
to
inches
them-
wide.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I find when it gets too wide, it becomes a little bit more rustic, and I don't want to go to that level. And standard with Fernbrook on these homes is a 5-inch plank, which I actually like. So I had picked the Gotham floor, the color, in a hand scraped with a 5-inch plank. I look at that and I go, that's amazing. I don't need to really go beyond that. So let me ask you a question, and a lot of people ask, which way do you run the floor and what's it dependent on? And I know traditionally with sand on site finishes, because they were more susceptible to movement, and that movement resulting in joints opening up, we always used to go against the direction of the joists to give it stability. Is that still the case now?
That is still the case, Ramsin. We strongly recommend that, because this way when we install a floor, you're bridging. So every so often, us as installers, and we are installers by trade, is that when you're nailing the floor, you have a better chance of actually catching the joist.
Right.
Every
So
so
it just
often,
binds
it
everything
binds it
together.
and it firms it down a lot better.
Okay.
So if there are cavities, any voids, this is when actually what's going to help you to bind and ultimately give you a flat finish. If you go with the joists and there are any crevices, high spots, low spots, you will begin to see that, and it mimics it, and it will mirror up on top.
And you get movement and you get squeaks possibly,
100%.
right? Would you ever glue this down as well? Is there any benefit to it, to gluing it down?
100%. And we make sure that we use the proper glues for this. Now, key guys, 100%. Because don't be fooled by the $50 pail of glue, because it will fail. So you have to make sure you have the proper adhesion, and the proper moisture must be out of that
Yes.
glue to make it.
Now, people always think it's easy, so don't grab a tube of PL and start putting little lines in, because that's the worst thing you can do, because PL, as it dries, it expands and actually starts creating gaps underneath, right?
Exactly, and it doesn't have the elasticity that we need.
Right.
Because we
Okay.
still need to keep this thing to make sure that it still has some flex. I don't need it completely hard, and I don't need it completely soft. It must maintain it.
So you carry hardwood. I also
Correct.
know that you carry laminates and vinyl.
That's right.
As well.
Absolutely.
So vinyl has
Huge
gotten
part.
really big. So there's a right place for everything. I mean, and I think the biggest lesson really is to come in and talk to an expert like yourself, to know the application. I want it for my basement. What's the best product for my basement? Because you wouldn't put pure hardwood in the basement, because it's too susceptible to those moisture changes and moisture from the concrete, and even just getting it down onto the concrete. So you go into an engineered floor or a vinyl floor, and then you've got laminate floors, which have come a long way. I'm not a laminate guy, but laminates have come a long way because they've got that embossed finish on it.
Absolutely.
It almost looks real.
And
So-
what we've done, Ramsin, and in their defense, the laminate product has come very, very far.
Yeah.
And it's not like what it used to be, and it's got a bad rap because of some of the big players out there that have chosen to go down that road just because of economical benefits.
Right.
What we've done is we differentiate ourselves from that, and we still traditionally stick to 100% European-made or American-made laminates. Difference being is that any contaminants can't possibly be there in Europe or in the States. So this keeps all the VOCs completely
Right,
out
so
of
it's
it.
a better product.
It's a way better product. The structure's a lot better. The click system is super firm.
Right.
And it's gotten so well now that even water can't penetrate it. So once it clicks and it locks, you're not undoing
You're
that.
sealed.
You're sealed.
So it's safe to say you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay.
So let's talk about what my options are, because I'd love to look at, is it worth doing this stuff? I know for some of the model homes we've done some really cool things, and when I look at this layout of this house, and I think you're familiar with it.
Yep.
So when we look at the main floor, and we've got this entire main floor when we walk in, you know, I consider doing some different things,
Okay.
but I got to weigh the options of, is it worth the money? I did go down the road of wanting to do herringbone throughout the house, and I think that would be beautiful, but it's a big premium, isn't it?
It is. It is premium. It is in the material and in the labor.
Yeah.
Because it's very labor intense. And that type of material, you cannot put that type of material in any rookie's hand.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're spending substantially more
Right.
than that of a traditional board.
Right.
And
So
we're-
it's got to be done right. Now, last thing I want to ask you
Sure.
is just, this is the one that kills me the most, is vents.
Vents.
Yes.
We have a solution now.
I don't want the white plastic ones. Okay?
No, we could paint them for you if you want.
Great. No, I don't want those either.
No, what we've done is we've actually teamed up with a company where they actually take your same material, we
Okay.
ship it to them, they fabricate out of the exact same pre-finished material, and they come back with this, which is what we call a flush mount. So when we install this, Rams, what is beautiful about it is that you no longer see it,
Yeah.
it's seamless.
So
And
this
would
is
be-
the stuff you guys would put in a custom finished floor anyways and sand it, but now you're basically putting this in and then you're cutting the wood around it.
That's right.
But this is a smooth finish, that's a hand scrape, but you can do this in a hand scrape because you would cut it up out of this metal, out of this wood.
That is correct.
And then what, you finish it to match?
No, actually what they end up doing is that we've gotten a little bit smarter because we've had some hiccups along the way. And now what we do is we actually ship out, prior to install, several boxes out to them.
Yeah.
So then that way they have the exact same material that
So
you're
they
going to
use
make.
this material, cut it up and make this? Really? What about all the cuts and stuff? They just, How do they deal with that?
Well, they know.
You don't want to give away your secrets.
No. We're magicians. We're magicians. We can't tell you all that. But no, definitely the end product. And again, you also have
The drop-in one.
Exactly.
So that would sit just above.
Exactly.
Which I got to tell you, I don't love that because it's even higher than a metal grill. Some of the nice metal ones.
That's right.
So if the metal ones are okay, you can change those afterwards. But for me, I got to tell you, I will definitely want to look at what the cost will be to do these.
Absolutely.
And to be able to upgrade to those. So I'm going to ask the decor center and see what the upgrade will be, and if it's worth it, I'm definitely, well, it is worth it to me because I'm definitely going to go with it. I think that's one of those things that you can't do after, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You can, but again,
It's
you
not-
have to
not
have.
easy.
It's not easy to do. No, again,
It's not a
you
weekend
YouTube warriors,
project.
put those tools away because it's
Yeah.
gonna get difficult for you.
So what an awesome day. I feel so good about everything we selected, especially here with the hardwood. It's so nice when a builder gives you decent products and standards to pick from. Now, that's it for today. Now, make sure you hit that notification button and subscribe to the channel. Maybe tell your friends about this series because this is where it gets exciting. There's so much more to come, so make sure you tune in to the next episode.